Well, that's another year done on my inevitable trudge to the grave, and to celebrate that fact, here are my bottom 10 films that I saw last year. As always, only films that played at least once on the silver screen in the United Kingdom in 2019 are eligible, otherwise this list would overflow by January 3rd. And with that said, let's get this show on the road! Films like Serenity live and die by their twist, and by a film, this twist is one for the history books. I mean, I've watched that twist scene a dozen times and it still floors me. Outside of that, it's a bog standard film noir about a man's ex randomly turning up in his life and asking him to kill her new husband. As you do. Look, I like the other Rambo films, but this just felt nasty and mean-spirited. The finale was an even more homicidal version of Home Alone, as Rambo took out an unknown number of unknown thugs who posed no threat to him. Rambo doesn't take on drug lords, he takes on armies. This one just left a bad taste in my mouth. A movie trying to ride the LEGO Movie franchise's coattails, unaware that the LEGO Movie franchise is now dead, and with none of the wit, charm and talent that it did have. The whole thing felt like a low-budget kids' TV knockoff and slipped in some of the worst songs I think I've ever heard in an animated film. It grossed less than $1 million on its opening weekend in the States, and rightly so. Riddle me this. How do you make a film about killers in therapy boring when any scriptwriter with the tiniest amount of talent could make that idea sing? Well, you get a bored-looking Gary Oldman to literally phone in his performance, base your marketing around Jessica Alba, then kill her off in the first 2 minutes, then have a plot that's madder than a box of frogs, as well as being completely incomprehensible and pretty much no action at all. Okay, so glossing over the fact that Her Majesty doesn't actually have any corgis anymore, and that this film featured Donald Trump for no reason other than to generate loads of free publicity, this is a badly animated, poorly voiced film with a few atrocious songs stuck in for no reason other than to pad the truly pathetic, yet far too long runtime of 85 minutes, including credits. Rotten Tomatoes gave it 0%, and as far as I'm concerned, that was way too generous. Without the X-Men, we would not have the current crop of comic book films that we currently do, so it's a shame that this venerable and unknowingly influential franchise died such a lamentable death. It was boring, dull, the ending was obviously reshot and crushingly boringly dull, much like the Dead on Arrival soft reboot of Men in Black, which was apparently horrifying to work on and comes across as an incoherent mess, which is a boring, dull mess. And one of several hints this year that the tyranny of the comic book film might, just might, be beginning to come to an end. I think this might be the worst British film I've ever seen, and I've seen several Danny Dyer films. Look, whilst I don't have an issue with Roman legionnaires fighting werewolves, I think that's a story with a lot of premise, I have an issue with werewolf costumes that look worse than those in my local pound shop, a soundtrack made purely from something that sounded worse than the love child of a vuvuzela and some poorly maintained bagpipes, an ending that was so sudden I'm still convinced my local cinema wasn't sent the final act, and they threw out the rules regarding their werewolves in the last 10 minutes. It's simply the worst superhero film of all time, and that includes Batman and Robin. A ticking clock plot that kept gaining extra time, truly woeful special effects, witless, charmless, and apparently a nightmare to work on. It bombed, and deservedly so. What is there to say about this thing? A film so bad that even furries were disowning it. But if your therapist can get you past the unrelenting army of nightmarish visuals, this is a terrifyingly dull film with very little plot. Only Taylor Swift seems to be having any fun, its one good song has been available on CD for years, and it's going to kill or damage film alone knows how many careers. Not least director Tom Hooper, who was working on this film until literally hours before the world premiere. I do, however, have no doubt that it's going to develop one hell of a cult following though. Also, as bad as this is, not for one single solitary second was it in contention for the worst film of the year. Because at least Cats was trying to do something different. None of these films exist for any passionate reason. None of these exist for taking a classic film and putting a new modern spin on it. I have spoken to hundreds of people, and I have yet to meet one who prefers these to the original cartoon versions. These films don't expand cinema, they stagnate it. They don't do anything beyond sell tickets and provide safe returns for shareholders. But in chasing short-term gain, they've hurt the medium. No one seems to remember the tedious, obvious, dull Dumbo. The studio that made the nature documentary with the unable to act animals has shut down. The actor that plays Aladdin literally can't find work. They took simple, classic films and stretched them, adding pointless details and subplots that weren't needed, watering down things that didn't need to be watered down, making what was once inspiring and uplifting dull and alienating. I mean, I could understand these films being made if Disney were about to go bust and we need some quick cash, but it doesn't, because Disney owns everything, including technically Pulp Fiction, which should be added to Disney World any day now. So that was my bottom 10 films for 2019. What did you guys think, and what was your worst film of last year? Comment below, let me know. I'm Daniel, it's been Dunking. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe.